Give you the tea. There you go. Yes, welcome to Radio FM88 Australia, simulcast on Radio FM88 and through these Facebook sites that you're currently seeing. Julia, my co-host, and myself have a very special or unique Cornishman who we can claim is an Australian. And his name is Patrick Gamble. And a big cheerio and a big outreach to our mate Patrick. You know, there you go.
Yeah, welcome everyone. Welcome, Patrick.
Thank you.
Patrick, you're an artist, right? You've got these beautiful pictures in the background. And yeah. Have you always been able to draw like that?
No, I started to paint probably about 27 years ago. And so I kind of lived most of my life as, well, I ended up becoming a builder. So I've been a builder for 35 years. And that's become my living. I had numerous other jobs before, but to be a painter was something that happened in the middle of my life.
So let's go to the start of your life. Sort of, you've lived in a lot of different countries. Where did you actually sort of spend your childhood? What was the background of your parents and family life?
Well, I was born in a town in the southwest of England called Tavistock, and I lived there until I was 11 years of age. In that time of 11 years, I obviously started to go to school. So the primary school, but I found school very challenging and very, very difficult. I kind of I come to learn at an early age that I couldn't write. And so they ended up putting me into a class with backward children. And so I kind of used to look at these children in this class. And then one day I found myself in this class looking out at everyone else. And but I just couldn't read and write. And but she was a marvelous teacher, and she did help me. But then when I went to secondary school, which we start secondary school at 11 years of age, I was there for about 6 months, struggling with school. And then we emigrated to Australia. My father was a plumber, and so there were 6 children. And we went to Australia to live. We were there for approximately 4.5 years. And we loved it. I mean, we loved that. I mean, gosh, Australia to me is just, wow. It's the country, if you like. And, but my father's lifestyle was quite a hard one. And, but I mean, he was a plumber and I was a mate. We ended up going to New South Wales. And unfortunately, he couldn't get a job as a plumber. So he got a job on I believe it was a cattle station. And then we lived on a cattle station for a while. And then he got another job on a sheep station, and which I went to a little school. I think the village was called Barrenba. And there were 13 children in that little school in Australia. I was part of, nearly half of them was my brothers and sisters in a way. And then we ended up getting a job in Western Australia because it was the mining side, and my dad got into the mining side. But because of his hard living, if you like, which is very hard on my mum, we returned to England. And so I had very little schooling. I basically ran away from school and my brothers. And so we came back to England, and I had to go to school here. And I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't. My brain just couldn't function. And so I left school. I left school before I was meant to, and I went and I done what I could. So I left school at 14, just 14, and I took whatever job I could get. I ended up working with my father for a while, but then we were back in England for a few years, and my father got restless, as he did, and we took off to South Africa. Wow. And he got a job in a major steelworks out there, and on a contract, and everything was. But I couldn't get a job because they discussed. Well, I had I didn't realize it growing up, but when the family had to go for an examination to get to Australia, we all had to go for a medical, and they discovered that one of my eyes weren't working properly. And I didn't know. I didn't know this as a child. And so technically, I'm technically blind in one eye, but I didn't realize it because I'd always been like it. And so when I got to South Africa, I couldn't get a job because I failed the medical. And so it's really, really difficult. And but my father ended up losing his job, and then we took to the bush in South Africa. And so it was a case of survival in a way. We had no financial support. We ate pumpkin leaves for Christmas dinner, and it was really hard. And then we finally, my father was an interesting character, but he got himself into a lot of trouble, and we ended up then just packing up and getting into Zimbabwe, which was Rhodesia at the time. So he skedaddled across the border, and this is my childhood. My father was always a little bit, I can't say he was on the run from police, but
run on big.
Even though, but he lived a certain life, and he was quite a hard guy. He was quite a hard man. But that was our child. My mum was a wonderful mum. We couldn't fault our mother, and she was an amazing lady. But my father was there was a lot of problems. But he was my father. I don't regret any of my past because it's kind of like it's made me who I am, and I wouldn't change one little piece of my background. So I kind of like when I got eventually came back to the UK, and so I had a number of different jobs. I'm semi-trained mechanic because I learned part of my trade in Rhodesia, but because of the sanctions, and when we got back to England, they wouldn't recognise any of the qualifications because Britain was sanctioning Rhodesia at the time. So I become a semi-skilled mechanic, and I love that. I did love it, but there was no money. So I had numbers of different jobs and a lot of struggle of coming and settling back in England because traveling makes you unsettled. It kind of gives you that rest. You don't quite know where you're meant to be. And so not me, my brothers and my sister, we really, and I tried to get back to Australia, but it wasn't easy. And it was a little bit like you had your chance, so you're not going to be able to do it again.
Hey, your microphone is just scratching against your shirt there, and you can hear it coming through. So
okay, I'll keep that.
You might want to take your shirt off and just show a bit of chest.
Yeah. Thank you. So yes, it's kind of I had a number of different jobs and very unsettled, and finally kind of settled that England is where I'm going to be, Cornwall, and so I was an atheist. I didn't have no faith. My mum had such a strong faith, and she wasn't a churchgoer as such, even though she went to church occasionally. But she had such a strong faith, got her through life, and she tried to give us this faith. And I had a little piece of faith in the beginning, but I kind of lost it. I kind of grew up in a survival space where you just got to get through life in the best way you can. And so I labeled myself an atheist and unbeliever. Spirit, if you like, came into my life when my life was very blissful. My life became very.
How did it happen? What happened?
Well, I found myself in a relationship. Then I got married, and I had a son, and it's kind of like, and everything was working. I've been through life where things seem to be short-lived. You had everything seemed to fall apart and fall apart and fall apart. Then one day, everything clicked, and so my life was I was really happy, and that's when Spirit came into my life. It didn't come into my life. I have no thoughts of my childhood or growing up of any spiritual experience or anything that could I don't have anything. All I have is life's lessons of surviving in foreign countries and getting through life. and getting through life in the only way you can. I regret some of it but I didn't have any other means or understanding, and so it's kind of made me who I am. As the years passed, when I become a builder, I become a builder because there was no work in England, and I went to a local builder and said, I want to be a builder, and he goes, I don't have no work for you. And I said, well, listen, I'll come and work for you for nothing. Give me a chance. And I said, look, I'll work. And if you feel you can give me some money, give me some money. But I want to become a builder. Anyway, he took me on, and I worked hard. And he eventually started paying me some money. And I learned the skill of building. And in England, we do it. You're a general builder, so you learn everything. You don't just learn, which fits my head, because I can't just, one thing would drive me crazy. I need to be doing lots of things. And so he took me on, and so I was building, and everything was good. And spirit came into my life from someone he employed, because another builder that was, because a lot of people come to Cornwall to live, but it's very quiet. It's a very quiet part of the country, and people that come from big cities can struggle in Cornwall a little bit, because it's quite laid back and it's easy going, and so a lot of people don't stay here because it's too slow. And so this builder came, he tried to settle, and he said, I can't, I've got to go back to the big city. But he brought a box of odd bits and pieces in for his mate, which wasn't me. And his mate did not take this box home. He just left it on the site. And this chap, this builder, he gave it to me. And I actually thought, another box of junk. I got loads of boxes of junk. Anyway, I took it and I just put it down in my garage, and I just left it there. And one Saturday, I came to tidy the garage. I came to this box and I emptied out into the trailer, because I was taking a load of stuff to the local tip. And I discovered 3 tubes of paint, and they were all, I picked them up. I can still imagine it now. I picked up these tubes and I read it, and it said oil paint, and I related it to him. And my thoughts were, I can't imagine him painting this guy, but there are 3 tubes. But a thought came into my head, and that's where I come to learn about the power of thought. But I didn't realize it at the time. But a thought came into my head to do a silly picture, a bit of fun. And I was going to put it on the wall. I'm just going to take these paints, and I found a board, and I actually thought I'm going to do something silly with this. And I ended up painting a man's face, and it didn't mean nothing to me. And my wife at the time, not anymore, but my wife at the time, I rang her and said, I've painted this picture. And she kind of a bit annoyed because I rung her in work. And when she came home from work, she said, I told you not to bring me in work. And but when she came home, I had it stood up in the kitchen, and she said, you painted that? I said, yeah. She said, gosh, who is it? I said, I don't know. And we both, anyway, nothing happened other than that. I had this painting, but after weeks or possibly months, I started to have dreams, and these dreams become and the dreams were basically of me as an artist, and they got stronger and stronger and stronger. And not only, what else happened, I started to see what I call flickers and shadows. It's almost like someone walked past my kitchen window, like a shadow, and when I looked, there was nothing there. And I had shadow, like a flash of a shadow, or blocking the light, just a flicker, and I got a sense that there was something around me. I thought, this is just, and this grew, and it kind of it freaked me out a little bit, because I'm an atheist. I don't believe, and I don't get, and I'm a man as well, so I can't get my head around any of this, because I need it in my hand. I need something to hold. I need to feel and see something, like a mechanic. I can put a nut and a bolt together, and my brain worked with the nut and the bolt element. And I couldn't get my head around this, and it kind of grew, and I had some really experiences, and from seeing energy, I would be walking with an energy ball floating around on outside my bedroom, And I went out, I got out of bed, and I put my hand in it, and it disappeared. And I thought, I'm going crazy. I'm going. This is. I don't get it. And I've been walking.
What do I think about it?
Well, I guess. Well, I generally think the ladies are more acceptable. I think the ladies are more open-minded, and because there was one experience in the bedroom at night. I was walking in the middle of the night, and there was a bird flying around the bedroom in the middle of the night. Yeah, and it's pitch black. But I because I'm a builder, I work outside. I need all the windows open at night. I can't be closed in. I need fresh air. And so if I heard a bird, I'm reasoning with the fact there's a bird in the bedroom. And growing up in Australia as a child, you know, I love nature. I love snakes and spiders, and I'm fascinated with nature, and especially animals that are, you know, like even a snake that is, you know, it can't see great, it can't hear great, it has no legs, it has no arms, but gosh, it's such a powerful creature. And so I'm fascinated with and poisonous spiders. So I don't have a fear of, but I'm just reasoning why is there's a bird in the bedroom in the middle of the night. And I thought, I got to get up, and it hit the wall and slid down beside my bedside cabinet. I thought, this is crazy. So I swung myself out of bed, put my feet on the floor, and this bird took it, and for the first time I could see it. And as it flew at me, it was like a rainbow colors, and it flew into my chest. And I couldn't say I screamed, but I kind of took a deep breath, and I didn't feel it hit me, but it disappeared. And of course, it woke my wife, and I'm told, and it's just crazy. This is crazy. This is absolute. And I really thought, I started to question my own mind, and I thought, and because I couldn't understand it, I wasn't comfortable with it. My brother said, "Get yourself to the doc." That's not right.
I don't know. I wouldn't have a problem with a beautiful bird flying into my chest. If you move your microphone, that'd be great.
So it's kind of like, I had these experiences, and it grew and grew until I started to, because I had dreams of painting, and of course I talked it over, and I so eventually it came to the element of where to go and buy some paints. So I didn't know what to buy. So the suggestion was, it's oil paints, go with oils. But I really didn't have a clue what to get. The only thing I knew is I wanted a really big canvas. That's all I knew. But I bought this gear, which I didn't really understand, and nothing happened. So I waited, nothing. It almost like it stopped. But about 3 months went by, maybe 4 months, and I had a dream, and I came downstairs and I painted. And I actually ended up painting for about 3 months. I didn't go to work too much. Which is not good. I was in a space, I was in the zone, and people encouraged me, people that I met, and people that were they encouraged me to follow it, and my family were quite good about it as well. I had support with because we traveled a lot. My family's very close, and so I had a lot of support from them. But I ended up going to a spiritualist church. I didn't go there to learn. I went there for it to stop. And the reason being, I didn't understand it. I cannot, and I wasn't spiritual. I didn't have that, and I was okay. I mean, my life was quite good now. So why did I need anything? It wasn't there for me when I needed it. So why would I need it now when I don't need it? so
a lot of questions, Patrick.
So I didn't need it. I didn't understand it, and I was a builder. I had to go to work, and I love my building work. I love building, and so it's kind of all these things were coming in, and I went to a spiritualist church, and all they wanted to do was give me healing, and I thought, I don't come here for healing, and I seemed to be getting pulled into it. And I thought, I wasn't even comfortable. I thought, what am I doing? And, you know, I'd fear someone would see me in a spiritualist church, because I thought I was in a place with a bunch of nutters. And I'm sat in there now. I'm one of them now. I had no connection to this, you see. And I thought, gosh, I hope none of my workmates see me in here, because I really did. I had a message from my grandfather, and I couldn't speak. I was so fearful that I couldn't even reply. Because I sat right at the back, and they said and it wasn't the medium of the evening, it was the chairperson, because that person was a medium as well, I come to learn. And they said, before we actually closed, which was the chairperson's place, I have to come. I know I'm not meant to give messages, but I need to come to the man at the back in the corner. And that was me. And I couldn't talk. My voice just, I couldn't. And I was so frightened.
What did your grandfather want to say to you?
It was my grandfather saying he's surprised to see me there, as what I was being there. That was so true. I mean, that was so true. That really, and there wasn't much more to the message, but that he's watching over me. And I thought, so that was that. But I stopped going to the church because it wasn't me. I felt, I just, I didn't pray. And it's kind of because I lost that part. And but that about 3 years, I'm guessing about 3 years had passed, and that church rang me, because I was painting still. I was still painting in between, and my house was filling up with paintings. And that one Sunday, that church rang me, and they said, we have a medium from Somerset who is serving our church, and we're out for a Sunday drive before the evening. Can we bring him to see you? And I said, well, sure, why not? And as Jeff will know, that was our dear friend Bill Harrison. Bill turned up in his little car with Healer wrote on the side, and he basically walked at the thing and said, put the bloody kettle on. He said, let's see what it's all about. And I really connected to Bill, because Bill was he was so down to earth. Bill was he didn't float up my path. He wasn't wearing gowns and stuff. Bill was Bill, and he just talked. He swore like a trooper, and I just connected to him. And Bill said, gosh, I don't know where to start with Bill. Bill invited me up to his healing sanctuary in Somerset, which I dragged my feet. I didn't rush there, but I eventually ended up going there, and Bill became my teacher. And even though I was still building, so I couldn't give a lot of time, but I did dip my toe into learning. Bill became my teacher, my mentor. He became my best buddy. He could become my best friend. And so Bill wanted me to do more, but I was restricted to responsibilities and commitment. I had to make a living, and as a builder and a family man, that's what I was doing. So it was quite a long changeover, and but Bill he's the background of what I still do. His teachings, I still teach the way he taught me, and I always will, because he was such an inspirational teacher to me, and yeah, he helped me connect to what I do. And but then I went through a very challenging time, and I rebelled basically. My life took on a major change. It fell apart. I fell apart, and I rebelled against the little bit of spirit that I had. I rebelled against them. I shut the door. I went back to Patrick as the atheist, if you like. When you're hurting with life, we do all sorts of things, and my coping strategy was to close myself right down, and that's what I done. And but what happened was, after about 18 months, I had a spiritual experience, and that's where a guide came in, and it touched me, and gosh, I can't explain that experience. I can't explain it. Even if I think back, it's still quite overwhelming thinking to that. I mean, I was in a fragile place. I mean, I wasn't in a great place myself. And when we get into life with struggles, when we get into a bad space in life, it can take all values away. So you get in more trouble because you don't tax your car, you don't go to work, you don't tax your car, you can take to drink, you have all thoughts in your head. And that's when I had a truly spiritual experience. and it kind of and you know, I had support from my brothers as well. My brothers were quite amazing because they would come along and say, "Get up, come on." They kind of whack me with a stick and say, "You can't lie down. You got to get on with life." And but the spiritual experience really kind of kicked me back into place. And I think, or I know, I was only truly ready then. That's really when I was ready to really learn to work with spirit. And I went back to Bill because Bill wanted me to go on what he called his road shows, and that was to work more with. And I gave up building. I because life had changed some. I went through drastic changes and major changes. I went through a real transition. I probably I lost a lot of weight. But I was being forced through something. I mean, I've always had long hair. And I was in such a bad state. I thought I'll go to Plymouth, and which is like the nearest city, and I'll get my hair cut, trying to kind of spruce myself up a little bit. And they cut all my hair off. And I was sat outside. I'm thinking, what has happened? And I finally got the message. The message was, Patrick, you've got to accept change. You have to listen. The message was so strong. Patrick, you can't hold on to the past. The past is gone. You have to move forwards, and we've cut all your hair off now. You got to get used. And the message was embrace change. Embrace the change. You cannot fight change. You got to learn to adapt and don't use your energy up. And that's when the coin finally dropped. So I actually gave up my building. I gave up my building work. I thought, if you want change, I'm going to change. So I stopped doing what I do. And I started to do what I did not, within reason, of course. So I stopped my building. I went and saw Bill, and I kind of went on the road for about 9 years. And I said to Spirit, listen, I'll work with you, and I'll give it a measure of time. And so I worked away a lot. Because I could. It was only me then to look after, and so I kind of took to the road with Bill. And Bill was an inspiration. Bill took me under his wing. He took me under his wing, and he gave me a lot of support.
Just for the listeners, and I know Jeff, you've met Bill, but who is Bill? What does he do?
Bill Harrison. When I met Bill, Bill's main thing was a healer. He was a fantastic healer. He was a medium as well, but it was his healing that was just exceptional. And he had a little cottage in Somerset, and he converted the garage into a healing sanctuary. And people literally used to queue up to come there. For Bill, for his healing days, his car park would be full. And Bill worked on a fast. Bill was down to earth, as Jeff will know. He was just so down to earth, and that's what I really loved about him. And you know, I joke about it a little bit, but Bill's spiritual way. I mean, Bill was a pie and chips and a Mars bar guy. He just lived life, but he had something. He had something. Bill had something that I have such admiration for him. And Bill was a bit like chalk and cheese. He was a bit like Marmite, you know. But he spoke what. Bill's words, he spoke the truth, but it's what I call bare bones, and so he would just say it straight. But I admired that. What you saw was what you got. But he was a fantastic healer, absolutely.
So in the 9 years that you were on the road with Bill, you learned to do the healing as well. Is that what?
Yes, Julia, I went through the. I didn't know why, but I kind of felt, God, there's people healing. What is all this about? And, you know, because I didn't know, and because I used to go to his workshops, I thought, well, maybe, you know, I should to learn. I need some understanding. So I done a 2-year course with Bill to learn to spiritual healing, hands-on. But Bill also taught me many things. He you know, the trust, the element of connecting to your gift. Even though Bill did not paint, he didn't paint, but he was a fantastic teacher. Bill taught hundreds of thousands. He taught so many people, and there was a simplicity to his teaching. It wasn't complicated. He didn't make things complicated, and So he helped me to adapt to life, because the part of Patrick, I mean, I wasn't very good at making decisions. I wasn't confident. And Bill could adapt, and his ability had a lot of energy. And I used to some of the things that Bill experienced, I used to think, gosh, how did he deal with that? Because I would have probably, and so Bill had and he worked very fast. Bill worked what I call on a fast vibration. And unfortunately for me, I worked on a slow vibration, because I couldn't adapt quickly. And this affected my life as well, because, but I took a lot of lessons from Bill, and Bill, in some ways, through spiritual stuff, taught me to deal with life in a different way. So he was a marvelous teacher, not just with the spiritual teachings, but how to deal with life and situations and energy. And so I learned to adapt to I mean, I'd be at Bill's ready to do a workshop, and he'd say, "You're not doing the workshop now. Get your gear. You're going to do a psychic painting for someone." And I used to say, "Bill, I can't change like that. I'm geared up to do my workshop." He says, and he would be quite, he said, "Get yourself in the back room now. You're not doing the workshop. Get on with it. Don't think too much about it." So it was a marvelous, it was a big, it's a fantastic time that I knew Bill and his teachings. And it really helped me, not just with the spiritual side, but just with, because I believe when you learn spiritually, you're also it will help you in the physical world. So I kind of started to connect to people, their energy, and started to paint pictures within a sitting, which I'm kind of labeled a psychic artist, and I'm inclined to call myself a spiritually inspired artist, because spirit inspire me. I see outwardly, I don't hear. I see outwardly. Doesn't mean I understand it. I feel so. I taste. I kind of say to people, it's like when I'm giving a message, I'm kind of like it's as if I've got a sweet in my mouth, and I'm trying to taste the feeling, and so that's how I work. But I see, and I paint, because I have a guide whose name is John. John was born in mediums have gave me this information, because I don't hear, and I believe John is the person that touched me. That's the person that came into my life and knew of my pain, if you like, knew of my struggles, and. But his name is John, and I've had a very similar message from so many different mediums about John. And in the beginning, I thought, oh yeah, anyone could say that. But then another medium gave me a similar message, and someone else gave me a similar message. So I thought, God, this is just weird. It's just like these different people know of this person around me. So I started to work with people, but I kind of, so I'm labeled a psychic artist. I don't get into the mediumistic side, which is talking to loved ones. Even though I could paint a loved one, which is where it overlaps a little bit. So it does, everything overlaps somewhat. So, but I'm labeled a psychic. Now, the word psychic is not always, it's not the greatest of words to pass out into our modern day life, because it's not accepted very well, if you like. So, but
in Australia, we have the word dream time.
Dream time, yeah.
And I think, looking at the beauty of the pictures, and Jeff has just brought up a gorgeous painting. We have people who are on the stream saying they love the humpback whale. I think Dreamtime is nice because, like you say, when we're going in those really difficult situations, when we're in those really dark spaces, Spirit reaches us and we sort of see or feel or connect into that space, and we know that there's, light and beauty and love and connection on a different level that's also available to us. And I think that's what you're bringing through, rather than the word psychic, really, isn't it?
No, absolutely, and it's really interesting that you touch, because you see, I see everything as a message. Everything that happens when we're in a certain space, and you see, when I started, because of my fond memories of Australia, and my fond memories of going out into the bush and the goannas and the kangaroos and the snakes and all those, and the lizards and everything that was going on. It's just such a fantastic, that when I came into the spiritual side, I all my artwork, or my cards that I had, I used to call it a brush with Dreamtime, and because the brush was the paintbrush. It could be a brush as a brushing against.
I love that.
Yeah, so I had a paintbrush and then the words "a brush with dream time," because I also knew the meaning of the dream time for the Aborigines as well. So it's kind of like, so it's kind of so that's, yeah, I did go. The dream time is it kind of sends ripples through me a little bit when you said that. Yeah.
So Patrick, we have had quite a few people really say that they love the whale. Can we talk about the paintings or the situations which that inspired you, or how it is that you got to draw the whale, or the painting that Jeff's got up, or the elephant behind you? Would that be possible?
Yeah, no, sure. I mean, I paint in two different ways. I mean, I started off seeing energy. And then I had the dreams, and then I started to paint. And sometimes it meant painting a dream. Sometimes it was that. But I would see, I would be at work, even building, and I'd get a flash. And I wasn't sure of what that was, but that flash would grow. And it could take a year to get another flash of that same image. But it would grow, and then eventually I would paint it. Paintings, to me, they are my teachers. They're trying to show me something, and maybe to paint it and to put it out into the world. Because in my early days with the paintings, I didn't title any of them. I just left them untitled because I didn't see myself as a word person. I saw myself. I've learned to talk a lot, but it's quite. I never used to be that way, and but because my life has took on this kind of roller coaster through the creative energy. But so it's kind of like, so the paintings are trying to show me something, and yes, I'm part of that. I'm a link in that chain. Part of it. Whatever. I'm in that connection. So there is a part of me in there, but there's part of it that come from other places.
Tell us about the elephant, please, behind you.
The elephant's was a very new painting, and I guess I put the two together because they're very close together in being painted, but they represent the ancestors a little bit. They represent within the animal kingdom the elders, if you like, and they represent, because we have keepers here, and keepers that are they hold knowledge and wisdom. And even when we look at the animals, I mean, they're both mammals, even though one is on land and one is in the sea. They're both mammals, and it intrigues me how this has come about. So I see them as keepers of knowledge and wisdom. So even the animal kingdom, when we get into the animals of even power animals and totem animals, the energy is so. It's an empowering element and the knowledgeable element coming into play. We could be sat in the wilderness, the wildness, and any wild animal that comes up and gets close to us, it is quite an amazing thing. We are honored.
Yeah. You must have had quite a few amazing experiences when you were out bush, when your dad took you and your 5 brothers.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because absolutely we did. I mean, like I said, we ended up living quite basically. We lived. I don't know how we lived, to be honest. I don't know how we survived. Both in Australia and South Africa. I don't know how we got through it. And but it was, and looking back, I kind of questioned my life. But as now coming into the spiritual side, my goodness me, the experiences of growing up as a child, even though it was very difficult, but my goodness me, it was such a learning, it was an education in itself, and my connection even to animals, I guess, and loving animals, but not really understanding it. So even when I painted a wolf, the wolf in my early days, it came in, and it's like having a dog come in. It's there. It's in the space. So whether you're painting an angel or a wolf or an elephant, or you're trying to get an understanding, and when we get into the knowledge, the keepers, the keepers of time and history and knowledge and wisdom, and even how the elephant, how the elephants, they have such knowledge of, even when one is ill and it's passing, how they try to support that, and they're trying to hold that elephant up or lift it up if it's falling down, and the whales as well, the sounds, the vibration, even the elephant, how it vibrates, and the whale, how it vibrates. And because the whale is in the sea, it represents the two worlds as well. I mean, it's called the keeper of two worlds. But it's a bit like, as above, so below type of thing. It brings in those elements of, but they are keepers, and they carry knowledge and wisdom, and they are here to teach us as well, to learn things, to heighten our senses, if you like. So yeah, the paintings, they're all my teachers, if you like, and I have feelings when I paint. Whether I'm painting just a pair of hands, and what that means, because I have this sense of feeling between my physical body and my soul, and in my early days, I was sat at my kitchen table, and I guess for some strange reason, I was still looking out of my eyes, but it's like I was looking out of my own eyes at my hands, but I was a different person, looking at my hands in the here and now. It's really weird. I mean, how can my brain deal with that? How can my brain cope with that I'm looking at my physical hands? It's almost like my soul was looking at my hands. And it's really, and it's kind of quite mind-blowing, but wonderful. But what do I do with that in this world that I live? I mean, so I become aware of my hands from a different person. And or soul, my soul was looking at me, and because I didn't see my soul through my eyes looking at me, something inside of me was looking out at me. And it's so.
Computer has a term for it. It's like two different drives that you're operating from.
No, but it's like, in a way, I guess in a way, I kind of relate it a little bit to a higher self and a lower self. And it becomes where it become apparent of the vessel. The human body is the vessel, and this vessel that I am in at this time is I have this conversation with my brother. It's like, it's carried me this far in life, and my legs are still carrying me, and it's quite an incredible thing, and it's kind of like so I've become more aware of my body, and that it's and to honor that body, because it's my soul has been born into it, and it's carrying me through life, and I see it a little bit like a rally car. It kind of lives life. It goes around the corner and it turns over and it gets dents in it, and it's not quite what it was, and but you got to hammer those dents out, and with all the flaws that I have within, I have struggles still. I'm a human being. I mean, gosh, but I have to kind of take all of me, my strengths and my weaknesses, my powers and the part of me that's also struggling as a human being. So it's kind of like, it takes me into all these places, even though I don't understand it all as a big picture. I believe in past lives. I don't do a lot with past lives. I leave that to the past life people, but I do believe in them. I believe in guiding vibrations, and we all have spiritual guides of one form, and they're like teachers in a way, and we can be part of those spiritual guides. We could be there. Many years ago, when I was at Bill's, and Bill had many people visiting from around the world. Jeff came to visit. And I believe this guy was also an Australian. And Bill always had interesting people there. And Bill would always say to me, get in there, you've got to do a reading for this guy. And I actually painted him. And that's the first time I'd experienced that. And I said, this is so strange that I've actually painted you, but I'm painting your guide. But he had a belief that guides in him, they are of one. It is of the same essence. And he gave me a lecture then about guides and how we are of them. And part of that I really get, because a guide is like a best friend. We resonate on a frequency. And so whether we knew of them or possibly were of them, or their influences are, and as Bill said, your guides are your best buddies. They're a team that we have around us, and that team is there for us to connect to. They're not here to live our lives, because that's why we're here. We're here to live, and as they were one day, they were here living one day, and I'm here now. Sorry.
One of your listeners, Annette Harrier, said you painted a lovely blonde angel for her at a healing weekend at Highbridge that turned out to be a young doctor who cared for a late husband.
Well,
cunning.
It's I guess in a way, because in my early days, I mean, you know, I've been nervous. I'm still nervous. I'm still nervous now. I still kind of I used to admire Bill, because Bill, the more people Bill had in front of him, the more he loved it. But me, I would go to pieces. The more people there were, the more I would be all shaky and nervous. And I used to think, Bill, how can you love being in front of all these people? And but the thing is, you'd sit down, and because you're part of there's an unknown measure to what you're doing. And I have to really stand aside. And but it took me a while, because, you know, it's hard to keep yourself out of it to some extent. You know, because some of it, you know, you can't get involved in what's being painted. Even though I'm responsible, because I have to kind of say, you know, I've got to be personal responsibility being in a place. So I'm kind of monitoring, but I have to kind of the word trust, and it's a real learning thing. And I can remember one time I went away with Bill to work, and I was working in a town called Sherborne, and I went there, and I'd done an evening with Bill, and I went to a young lady in the audience, and I painted this man, and she couldn't take any of the message, couldn't take the painting, couldn't take the message. I just feel I was being swallowed up. I just wanted to run away. And when I came out of that evening, Bill, he just gave me just put his hand on my back and said, "Come on, stay in the space." And I really kind of beat myself up a little bit, returning to Cornwall, thinking, I don't know if I want to keep doing this. I really.
For acceptance, don't we? And then, you know,
yes,
especially when we're doing something like you are, which is painting something that nobody can see.
Yes,
not tangible, and then we don't really want to sort of feel like we're crazy.
No, and also I guess you kind of you want it to be a good evening. You kind of want to be, you know, you want a nice evening, and it's a public space, and you're getting a lot of no's, and you feel, oh no, and but the interesting thing was 12 months later, because we kind of done the circuit, and we would go back again 12 months later, I believe about 12 months later, and I went to that same place. And an older lady came up to me. She said, "Patrick, can I have a quiet word?" I said, "Yeah, sure." She said, "You were here last year." I said, "Yeah." "Tell me about it. It still haunts me now, that terrible evening." She said, "Well, you painted that picture for my daughter." And I says, "Right, okay." She says, "I picked my daughter up that evening." And she said, "My daughter came out with a picture." She said, "Unknowing to my daughter, I know who you painted. And you actually painted her natural father. Who she did not know." Her mum ended up telling her because she thought it was the right thing to do. But I went 12 months thinking that was a terrible evening. So that is one situation where you just have to trust. Confirmation can come back 2 years, 3 years, 4 years later. So I've just come to learn that I just do what I do. But with a lot of things, it's also, you know, I don't just paint, you give a message, which again is kind of Bill helped me to do that. And I use my card deck. I mean, I didn't know there was going to be a card deck. A medium came up to me at Bill's, because Bill had an event once a year called the Healing Weekend. And a medium came up to me and said, "Patrick, can I talk to you?" And at that time, because people wanted like a card of a picture of a paint, they wanted a picture of the whale, but they only wanted a card. So I eventually thought, well, maybe I could get some cards printed. So I had 8 postcards printed. I didn't have the money, because printing was very expensive. I didn't have the money to have more printed, if I'm honest with you. And but I had 8, and then I saved up and bought another 8. So I had 16 postcards. And so it's kind of, and they were just selling as postcards. And a medium came up to me at Bill's. She said, Patrick, can I have a word? So I said, yeah, of course. She said, I want to know how you're using these cards. So I said, I'm not using them. I sell them, but I don't use them. She said, well, I'm using them in workshops. And she says that, and to get people to open up. And she said, why are you not using them? I said, I didn't really know what she was going on about because I didn't read cards. And she wanted to know, did I have any thoughts or feelings about them? And I said, well, yeah, every painting I have feelings about. It made me feel. And she said, I want to know what they are. So she wrote every feeling down to every card. And she said, really, you've got to listen to me. You need to be working with these cards. So I kind of started to work with them. And those feelings I had when I painted, I used them within a reading. And then because we got into the age then of digital printing and computers, if I painted a picture, I was able to take a picture of it and print it on my little home printer, and I laminated them, and I ended up with these really big ones actually laminated, but there were 32 cards, I believe, and I used them for 10 years, and I'd done readings on those cards, and eventually now it's come to the deck where it's 72 cards, and it's what I call them an oracle deck. It's a very open deck. It's half.
We love them. Can you tell us about the mermaid one? Because
well,
just want to understand why she's holding what that thing is that she's holding in her hand.
Well, it's like it's a big shell, and you can't quite see it in the picture because obviously the paintings are reduced so much within the cards. But in a larger picture, you'll see it that it's a big shell, and it's something to blow through. So it's a sound, and the mermaid card within the deck. There are water cards. I mean, it's to do with the colors as well. So obviously the mermaid is within the water. So we could say that resonates as a water card. But it's a water card because it's an indigo border. It's a blue border card. That's why it's fallen as a water card. And within the picture, you can't quite see it in the card, but she's looking at Atlantis. And so this is one of there are 3 house cards in the deck. And this is one of them, and but there's also 2 other house cards or home. So it represents house or home, and Atlantis is her home, but it's crumbled. It's a suggestion that it's fallen, and within the card it's about movement. So it brings in a lot of movement regarding home situations, and because it's a water card, it will bring in emotions as well. Now, because it's also linked to the tides, that we could say that there's indecisions or change coming into play, but it brings emphasis into a home. Now, when we get into a home space, there are 2 things, because a home is a dynamic place. It's the energy within. So we have 2 things with home. We can have energy going in, because a home is like an engine, and it's how it runs. A home can run very sweet or very sour. So it brings in this aspect of what is happening in the home space, but it also brings in a suggestion of maybe unsettledness, restlessness, a time of maybe we're not confident in making decisions. But it's an emotional card, so it will bring emotions into play. Now that card could be, because there are sequences of colors, we could have another blue card or indigo card. And that would also heighten emotions within the reading as well. So if I was painting a picture, I have the picture to go by, and then I have the card. Now, the way in which I read my cards has not changed since the beginning. I didn't know how to read cards. No one taught me. I just had a feeling to do a 12-card spread, and I've never changed the way in which I read my cards. So I have 12 cards, and I work.
This card at the moment, as you were talking, I thought it actually, apart from the home, it also really relates to what we're going through with the great lockdowns and Atlantis crumbling, institutions crumbling, the great change, the uncertainty, the floods.
Yeah.
I'm quite interested to see, Jeff, if you do a random click through to see what else comes up. I think that one, yeah.
Okay, this is the gift. The gift is a fascinating thing because it's what I call young eagle. Okay, because I have old eagle in my deck. I have an old eagle, but this is young eagle, and this is the card of gift. So it can represent our personal gift. I mean, it can go into aspects. It's a yellow card, so yellow is the solar plexus. So it's also see quite an interesting thing is that the mermaid was an emotional card not because of the mermaid, but it is a water card, because the mermaid lives in water. But it's because of the indigo. Now this is a yellow card, and it's a solar plexus, which is also emotions, because it's linked to our tummy space. And because it's linked to our tummy space, that is our nervous system. It's our central place. It can be linked to chi, life force, but it's where we carry all our anxieties, our anxiousness, our nervous energy. It's where we give our energy away. So it's also a water card, not because of the yellow, but because of the solar plexus. So those cards actually relate together within the card reading. Even though they're very different, it's what I call they hold hands. Okay, they work together, because even though there's no sign of water there, it actually carries an essence of water as the tummy space, because it's emotions. And yellow is our tummy space. Yellow is also the color of is that color of inspiration. So it's about new ideas. It's about thinking. We need new ideas. We need to, when my life is blissful, I don't need to do anything, because my life is it's beautiful, it's lovely, so we don't need to change something that's working. And the cards are not here to change things that are in place. When something is a positive, the cards are not here to magnify or work anything with that aspect. The cards are only here they're only here to target for a word a negative. Now, not everyone likes the word negative, but to me, if I believe in a positive, I have to believe in a negative. They create values. If life was just bliss, where would the value? What can we associate it with to create a value? So there would be no values to something that was just, we could say to have beautiful sunshine is so beautiful, but if we kept having the sunshine, it would become a negative. We got to have the balance within life. So the interesting thing with Young Eagle, it's a carefree card, okay, and its true essence is careless. Now I know that sounds quite, to be careless, but actually, if I care too much in life, gosh, it's going to wear me out, because my sensitivity. I'm going to live my life by everyone else. I'm going to forget about me, and I will. It's not the balance. Somewhere in the balance, I have to be. So Young Eagle is about, it's carefree. Its true essence is to care. It's a bit of what I call be a bit more of a buff. You've got to push through life. You've got to get through life. Come on, where's that? It's a bit like putting armor on, because it looks after the sensitivity. No, I was too sensitive. When Bill met me, I'd say I was probably pathetic in some ways. It didn't look at Jeff's nodding there, yeah. But I was quiet, and I was kind of like, I was too sensitive. And then that's where the Young Eagle comes in. It says, hey, don't lose your sensitivity, but you've got to be strong with it. You've got to look after it.
Okay, sorry. What particular card do you want me to pull up?
Sorry, Jeff?
Oh, yeah. What card
pull up? So,
pick a card.
Where did you meet Jeff, Patrick?
I met Jeff at Bill's. One day at Bill's, and Jeff came over on a number of occasions, and it was always great to see him. Jeff helped a lot out with Bill. Jeff was, he helped at the Healing Weekend. I think you worked a lot with the sound and all that over there, Jeff, didn't you? You worked on the sound for the show. Yeah.
Announcer. I used to take the radio station. They all used to get the radio from Australia. I had to change the time to suit the local conditions here, but yeah. So he was all dressed up in a suit. I was just wearing a pair of shorts and a polo shirt, and I think was. A year later, he was wearing shorts and boots and a t-shirt like me.
Yeah, he looked like a right Australian. And of course, then Bill, because Jeff came over a lot and spent a lot of time with Bill, and then Bill would go out to Australia. So again, a strong connection with Jeff and Bill. Yeah, very very strong connection there. Yeah.
I had this phone call from a lady up at Mount Tamborine on the Gold Coast and said, "Can I have this guy come on the radio station. Yeah, rightio. You bring him down on a Saturday morning, 10 o'clock. We've got the sports show. What? What? Yeah, we'll put him on the sports. No, he's a healer, mate. You know, I said, trust me, put him on the radio station. So anyway, about 9:15, this car turns up, and here's this guy with these fawny knickerbockers. He's got a
fawny knickerbockers, really?
Yeah, big things down to his knees there. Yellow shirt. And he said, "Oh, you Jeff?" Yep. He said, "I'll put the kettle on, will you?" I said, "Right." He said, "Oh, where's that dog?" So out comes Cosgrove because he'd been listening to the radio station. So we had a cup of tea and then we put him on. And so what actually happened was, I said, we got to talk to Australians, and the best way to talk to them is through sport. So we had the guy talk about horse racing, and after he did the scratchings and all that stuff, Bill came on and we talked about being the animal whisperer. Yes, anyone who had greyhounds or horses or trotters, gallops, just their own horse. This healer could heal your horse, you see. So then we had the athletics show, and had the athletic people came in, and anyway, so it just turned out that Maris Kneebone, she actually was in the hockey team and then became a runner, and she had gone down with a major injury, and then she'd gone and seen a healer, and we talked about it, and then we brought Bill on the subject. So we talked about how you could heal and get that spiritual energy and get the chi going, and then we had the rugby league guys come in. Oh, it's so funny. I mean, they really well. They got in the semi-finals of rugby league, and so we talked about visualization. So it was all about rugby league, how they're playing, and then we got Bill on. And we talked about visualization, seeing the team working together as a unit and scoring a try. So it was all about visualization using meditation. So. Then we had the lady come in with the tennis show, and one of the young girls at 16 had tennis elbow, and so we talked about, got Bill on, and she did this healing on this lady with tennis elbow. And we had all these different sports, and that's how we brought the healing in. So it just cut the ice, you see. And afterwards, we went and had lunch, and then he leaned over and said, "You got a spare bed?" "Yeah, I've got 3 bedrooms there, 4 bedrooms." "Oh, yeah, you can have a bed, no problem." So that was it. We set up camp. Shit, I must have gone through 60 cups of tea a day with that fella. Christ,
yeah, it's a very English thing. Yeah.
You got the billy on or what? Oh.
Yeah. Oh, because you used to make me giggle, Jeff, because you called him pork chop, remember? Because of his build. Yeah. There was a good laugh. It was a good laugh. It was that. But that what you mentioned there about visualization, it's a real, if we go back to like the magicians and the wizards and that, and you see things in films about visualization, and it become then that, even sports people in government and the power of vision. It's kind of like, and it's about holding that vision as well. And I guess working with a number of different people, it's about holding the positives in life, regardless of, we have to hold a positive. And it's very hard to hold a positive when life is slapping you around the face. I mean, that, when I'm sat under a coconut tree with a nice drink, so easy to be positive. But when life turns your life upside down and someone says, be positive, wow, that's a hard place to be. But it's such a value. We have to hold that positive. It's kind of like, there is no other way, because it's the law of attraction. It's what is attracting. So even though life could be the turmoil, if we get involved in it, we have to deal with it, but we have to stand to the side of it, and we have to deal with positive energy. Because if we don't, we're just watering. It's like a pot plant. All we're doing is nurturing that pot plant and watering it, and we're growing the negative power. But it's very hard to do. And but my pathway and visualization, I have to hold the vision. It's linked. It's for my tomorrows, and where it's taken me. I have to work with the positive, because life is, life. It's not always easy living a life. I mean, some people get through an easy life, but generally speaking, a life is quite a challenging place to be. And
challenging at the moment, and but
Yes.
you're being very successful. We've got Kelly Louise Fisher saying she met you at Western Supermare, and you always hold a special place. It's just so inspirational, loving, caring, uplifting. And we had someone earlier saying that you helped her through depression and anxiety. So I think you're doing a great job, holding that vision and sharing it.
I guess in a way, I guess like all of us, most of us, we've lived a life, and it's like Bill. I mean, you don't forget where you've come from. I kind of like. And my life has gave me the teachers, not just spiritual teachers, but my life's teachings. It's kind of like like a lot of us, I've experienced a lot of things, and I guess the interesting thing is that even though I said earlier about keeping myself out of it when I'm giving a reading, I mean, that's one side of the coin, but the other side of it is I guess at times I have to bring me into it because I'm dealing with this person I'm dealing with lives in this world where I live, and there was an instance where I was giving someone a reading and I kept getting flashes of my past and something that I had been through. So in my mind, I'm saying, Patrick, take a hike. Patrick, go and take a walk. You shouldn't be here in this reading. And but it didn't go away. And then one day I thought, I'm going to bring this into the reading. But I didn't say to the person who's having the reading, this is what happened to me. I said, would you understand a situation of this? Because this is what happened to me. But I didn't say that. And I said, can you understand the situation of going through an experience? Because we have two things. We either have the sitter or there's someone close to the sitter, because we're all connected to other people. So if a loved one is going through a very difficult time, it's going to affect me. And and I explained this situation, and the person said, I'm just going through it now. And I used to think, wow, that was a major breakthrough for me, where my life's past as actually kind of like something showing me something of my past to pass over as part of the message. So we have to work with ourselves as well, but we have to just hold ourselves in a certain space when giving that reading. So the part, going back to the psychic reading, the psychic reading is about life. It's not a medium mystic reading about a loved one. I leave that to the mediums. That is their job, to connect to loved ones. I don't see that as myself. My part of what I do is about getting through life. It's about, because the past affects us. The past, our experiences, even just as a child, the family we're born into, the friendships, the relationships, the experiences we have can have an impact on our lives that are not always positive. And it can prevent, it can create, it can trigger such fears, panic, to run away from life. So part of the readings that I give they're there to empower. It's to empower the sitter in making decisions. Because to change life, we have to change our thinking. If my life is working for me, don't change your thinking. But if my life is not working, and I try to change it, and it's not changing, I have to look at myself. I have to take some of that on board. And this was a lesson for me. And I actually went into this because life is full of all sorts of things along the way. And again, my challenges have not stopped. But I went through another challenging time probably about 2 years ago. And but I kind of like I entered a new year, because I like the facts of New Year's, and because they are the word new, it's like a new chance, new opportunity. And but I entered the new year with that I'm going to change me. Now, changing me is quite an interesting aspect, because if I change me and no one sees I've changed, that isn't going to work. That's just me fooling me. So people have to recognize the change. That's my confirmation. People have to see the change in me. If they don't see a change, I'm not doing it. So changing me is like having a suitcase full of hats. Now, not all those hats are going to create a positive feedback. So I have to be observant. So if I change me, I have to be aware of what it's doing. And it's quite an interesting thing. So I set out to change me. I set out to explore this element of creating or bringing part of me that has been hidden inside of me all my life. You know, because if you grow up in a space where you don't have confidence, then we got a cloak over ourselves. We hide part of ourselves. We don't feel comfortable coming out of that space or the comfort zone. But coming out of the comfort zone opens situations, doorways. So I come out of my comfort zone. Something that is not natural for me to do. And I come out with a change to my character. And also, I don't know that I tweaked my appearance too much. I don't think I worked that way. But I changed me. I changed how I stood up in a room. I changed how I walked across the room. I become aware of my energy if I walked into a cafe. I become more that I'm sending out this positive energy. And I was
with intention.
Yeah, an intention. And it's an awareness, but you have to have the awareness 24/7. You cannot, because the mind has a mindset. If you relax it, it will go back. That's why we repeat the same thing, or the same thing can happen, because we set out to change. I'll never do that again. That will never. But because the mind relaxes back into its pattern, it happens again. So we have to be aware every 24/7. But the mindset will change. It will, but we have to develop the mindset for it to change. And so I worked with my mindset, and I was aware of it 24/7. And the wonderful thing, the amazing thing is, it brought about major changes in my life. It brought about things that I thought, how can my life change? You know, when life changes into a positive, we're inclined just to think, well, it changes. But you know, when I was in a negative space, and because I'm aware and I'm measuring, or I'm aware of what I'm promoting, and I changed my promoting, my intention, how it brought something back into my life that was far better. I couldn't believe it. I kind of sat on the floor and think, my God, is this that powerful? Is this that? No, it's quite an interesting thing, because, you know, my energy fluctuates. You know, if life is challenging, the exchanges, it will take my energy. And it's very hard not to have anxiety. It's very hard. How do I become not fearful? How do I reduce my anxieties? And it's energy flow. So I become aware of energy flow. Because even when I was working at Bill, when I went to Bill's to work, people would say to me, the work you do, Patrick, does it tire you? I said, tire me? It wears me out. And they used to say, it shouldn't wear you out. But they wouldn't tell me they wouldn't tell me what to do. But I become very aware. I guess I stumbled onto something quite by accident. And that wasn't that, it might have been 6-7 years ago, of energy flow. And I started to and it's a visual thing. You got visualization, as Jeff said, visualization is such a massive thing. So we can imagine. I use the word imagine because a lot of people, you see, words are words, and for a logical mind, we need certain words. So if you use the word fantasy, imagination, thought, it's what the mind does with it. So whether I imagine it, I'm still visualizing. They're just words to me, and how we accept those words. But to me, they're real. So if I'm imagining it, I'm seeing it. I'm very aware of my thoughts. And so you can visualize energy, and so because I can't read something because I've come to learn that I'm dyslexic, and I have to be aware that I can't, and it's been part of my learning struggles in my past. Like I can't read. I can read. I've taught myself to read. I can write, but I can't absorb by reading, and I have to be. I can't write. If I write, I've got to be very aware. I have to read things about 6 times or come back to it many times, because it's been a bit of an handicap. But it's my brain. So I have to work with a vision. I have to. My mind understands a vision, but it doesn't understand reading. I can't tell myself it. I've got to visualize. I've got to give myself an image. I've got to give my mind an image. So I work with teaching me to work through meditation, visualization with an image. So I had to imagine. So imagine. What does energy look like? So I just saw it as so I kind of thought, well, what do I see it as a ribbon? Or do I see it as a flow of water? So I saw it as a light. So I saw it as a golden light for me. And so then I thought, well, what do I do? I become very aware of my solar plexus. And I started to work with where this came from. I don't know, but I started to work with the solar plexus more. I was aware of chi, life force, but not very much. I don't know much about it, but I was aware of my solar plexus, and so it took me away from my mind a bit, and it took me away from my heart a bit. And I was talking to someone a number of years ago, and I said, I work with my tummy space, and they said, did you know it's known as the second mind? So I said, no, but that kind of like, wow, yes. Yes, I get that. And then someone said to me, and it could have even been Willem. It could have even been Willem. Someone said, about 2 years ago, someone said to me, it's not your second mind, it's your first mind. Because it's the gut. And I thought, yes, it's the first mind. It's not even the second mind. It's your first one. So it's a real power source. So that's where I pull and work with my energy. And I'm very aware of giving energy away. I mean, we're natural givers. And so we give energy, and it's fine to give energy away. But sometimes in life we find ourselves with very little energy. We could be running so much on reserve. See, low energy is not a good space. Low energy for anyone, it's not a good space to be, because it raises all the emotions, the anxieties. We have no coping strategy. And high energy is, if I have high energy, I throw myself over an airplane and don't care where I land, because I'm gonna bounce, and when I bounce, I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna get on with it, because I have high energy. I'm gonna get through this, because that's what. But if I have low energy, you see, high energy lowers the emotions. It looks after the emotions. It takes on a very strong high energy. But if low energy, which a lot of us experience, and we're not even aware of energy flow. Low energy is it's a oh my goodness me. I've been in a place of low energy. It's not a good place. It's a dark place. It's a scary place to be, and it creates all. Your body can go through. It's related to traumas and stuff. But we have to be aware of the energies. We have to be aware of energy flow, and so the practice is we can't take energy. We can't get involved with anyone else's energy unless they're open. It's a mutual thing. But energies are. I've given a lot of energy away over my life, so I can reclaim my energy. I can reclaim it, and I went through a process of reclaiming my energy, and it was snagged. It's snagged, and I was pulling it back because for me, I thought I have this golden light. My vision is the golden light, so it's flowing from me, and so I thought, well, I need to get it back. So the only thing that I could put inside of me as a vision, which for me is, I put a fishing reel in my tummy, because I didn't know what else to put. I tried other things, but I thought it's not working. And I'm not a fisherman, but it's not the fishing reel. It's something to wind my energy on, and while I'm winding it on, it's filling my entire body. But the natural thing is for the energy flow. And sometimes it's like we have a natural doorway, and most of our lives, this natural doorway is just allowed to be open. It's only when energy reaches a critical point of lowness that we have to close that doorway as well. And we have to be aware of energy flows, because we don't have that. And it's a little bit like having, when we have a lot of people around us, and when we have nothing, there seems to be very few people around us, so it's kind of like, it's an interesting thing, but it's visualization, Jeff. Yeah, it sends a great energy thing with me, and it's something that I work with. So I guess it's part of what I do in paint, but to hold the vision and to work with the vision and to promote. Even when my life is not great and it's going through struggles, I have to go away and work, and I still have to promote the positive, because it's such a, I have to. It's the way it works.
You do a good job, because, you know, when we look at the pictures, just as you said, when you're in a low space, spirit touched you. You've basically been a gift in terms of being able to put that onto paintings and make it accessible to people to see.
I think also because I've come from a background of where it kind of happened, I've come to learn that everyone is creative. Everyone has the you see, when we get into the creative source, oh gosh, it's such a, the creative source, however one sees that, is a marvelous energy. And so if we get into the creative flair, which again is a way of suggesting, you know, whether it's painting, writing, music, or dance, but everyone is creative. And again, holding workshops at Bill's, people would come and learn the healing, and they would come and learn the mediumship. But for me, as like the art, there were people that felt they've never been artistic. They could paint a stick man, as you'd say, but they've never been no good. Now, I kind of feel that we can get a little bit locked in life. So I feel everyone is creative. It's because creative energy is a freedom of expression. And sorry?
You do workshops, you offer workshops to help people discover their creative side.
Yeah, I do workshops teaching people to unlock that creative side. I don't have any theory, you see. I don't work with a theory. To me, creative energy is just about, it's about, there is no, I don't get involved in theory, because I think I don't get involved in washing your brushes out and laying your paint out. I kind of like, I just get the paint out and just get your brush. It doesn't matter. I paint with sponges and sticks and cloths, and it kind of like, and my brushes are just household brushes. I do have some fine art brushes just for the lining and stuff, but basically, and I say to the person, you know, what you're using is what I use. You're using my kit, basically, because when I go into the paint, I just go to that same box and pick out the brushes they've used. It's nothing different. And but we're trying to teach people to have that, to overcome, because they're blocking themselves as well. So I teach the art workshops, the vision. See, the paintings behind me, or behind Jeff, and I see as vision. They are visions, and visions are more, you're inclined to paint on a bigger picture, and it can be anything from, you know, from just an angel in the sky, or just the sky, to the sea in the sky, or to mountains and a unicorn or a dragon. So it's a vision, and all these visions are messages. We interpret them into trying to get greater understanding. It's no, to see a picture is like a page full of writing. You read it, just to put color in, and everyone's individual. You know, how we apply color, or how much, is all a language. It's the same with people that read handwriting. You can read how someone places color on, and how it mixes and what they do. So we go through a lot of things, and some of it is, so I just teach people what I have learnt, and it's not so much on the theory. And you try not to make it a classroom, but we do the vision, we do the psychic art, which is linking in and tuning in and basically painting a face of generally people, but it can also be of wolf or bear or stag, or even unicorn, wherever that takes us. And I also teach the oracle deck. The oracle deck's been when I went to bring the oracle deck out, I thought, well, there's already, you know, my question is, there's already hundreds of decks out there. You know, why does it need another deck? Why, you know, it's kind of like, so I didn't know, I really didn't know what to do. But eventually I went down the road of actually bringing out a deck, and it's what I call half a deck, because the other half is you. The deck can't work without you. The deck has a guiding nature to how it's worked, but you are a valuable asset, because I don't teach people. I want you to read the deck from yourself, not from the book. There is a book, but what makes the deck, what makes the reading different is your vibration. It's your vision, your energy. So that's where the deck comes into play. I just teach a basic guideline to a structure that has worked for me, and I've never changed that structure. I work with the conscious and the subconscious, because it's your higher self and your lower self. And it's being aware of your thoughts, your intention. You know, to change your favorite saying of mine, to change your life, you've got to change your thinking. if you're not prepared to change your thinking, you're not going to change your life. It doesn't work like that. And some people won't change their thinking because it's everyone else. And so if you're not going to change, and the law of averages says if it keeps going wrong, you can't keep looking around. You gotta go to your, we are the vibration, we are the point, and so we have to change that. It's a fascinating thing, because when you get into the creative energy doesn't just stop. When people come to a workshop, it's a relationship. You're having a relationship. Every time I have a painting, I'm having a relationship with that, and it's like real relationships. You have, God, this is going really well. Oh my goodness, that's not a good day today. It's falling out. And so it's what we do. So, in my early days, I could give up on a painting, but I come to learn if you give up on a painting, you're going to give up on life. You're going to give up on ideas. You can't. Consistency, never to give up, to keep going, to overcome. We could be so close, but we feel we're so far away. We can feel we're going the wrong way, but we're actually going the right way. And so I have a little bit of Irish in me, and most of my life I thought I'm not going that way. I'm going that way. Unless you're not going that way, Patrick. I said no, I'm not going that way. And but I've come to learn after a while, why am I fighting the flow? So what I use now, I use my energy up in the flow of life, not fighting the flow of life, because it may appear I'm going the wrong way, but actual fact. The law of averages says nothing stays the same. So, I can get more involved with the door that's closed rather than the one that is about to open. So it's kind of like, so it's all interesting. So, but the creative energy is so doing a workshop is about observation. It's about looking and what you're doing in that painting and getting people to observe more things. So to observe life. We can't, I can't just paint a picture and look over here and expect it to be a miracle. Yeah, some people live their life like that. They're going doing all this stuff and then they think it's all going to be, we have to be observant. So the creative energy doesn't stop with just painting a picture. It starts with my future is linked to here now. But a lot of people are like looking, so the creative energy comes into play because the way because if I had a blank canvas here now, I'd pick it up and hold it here in my arm, which I do for people, and say, do you realize you are this canvas? This is what you are. So you have options. You can keep it as it is, or you can explore. It's not about saying you have to change. It's about exploring the creative energy. So it's bringing in, so I've learned to explore the creative energy of who I am. And that's what I try to teach people. You can work in a way where you're exploring and you can change, I could change my appearance and work with that. But I have to observe it. So my creative energy is linked to me and it's linked to my future. But my future is me. My future is not something that sits 12 months down the road. It sits with me creating my future. So I use the creative source on myself to work in that way. And whatever happens in my life, I have to I got to fight it with a positive energy. I've got to work in that way. But the creative source is such a wonderful, it's the source is fantastic. And even get into the creative energy, because I was at a workshop at Bill's, and because I was thrown into the creative, so I had no teaching. But when I started to teach art, I kind of had to take people back to a beginning. So it's a bit like swimming. I was dropped in the deep end with spirituality, and I just had to learn to swim. But you can't teach that because it's not an easy place to. It took me years for me to grasp it. So I kind of saw it in a way, the image I give my mind that I have to teach people to learn to swim in the creative energy. So it's a bit like putting on your water wings and getting them in the shallow pool, and taking them forward. And someone said to me in a workshop at Bill's, Patrick, do you actually do what you're teaching us?
Oh, that's a question.
Yeah. And I thought, well, since I've become spiritual, I better answer it truthfully. And so I said, I'm sorry to say, I've never had to do it. I didn't learn that way. And I felt really bad by saying I'm teaching something that I never really had to learn. And I drove back to Cornwall from Bills. I'm thinking about this. That's not good, Patrick. How can you teach something that... So I thought, well, what can I do? Because I know my spirit guide would come in. I know how he links in, and it links in through oil paints. And if I use even if I use a pencil, it breaks a connection. And that's for John. So I thought, what can I do? I know how to block John. So I thought, I've got to block him. So I thought, what can I do? So I'm going to use a different paint, because I know if I use something different, it'll break the connection. So I thought, I can't be put in that position again. I have to take me back to the beginning. So I thought, well, I'm going to have to do it, because I don't want to say that again. It's not right. And so I thought, well, what can I do? And I thought, well, I'm a builder. Come on, let's just use part of me. And when you're building and plastering a room, we have these little small trowels. And I thought, well, I'm going to use a different paint, and I'm going to trowel a picture. And that's what I done. And I ended up troweling angels.
Yes.
Skimming them onto a canvas. And they were simplistic. They weren't loads of details. And someone saw one and said, gosh, can I buy that? I said, well, yeah. And I've done another one and someone bought that. And I thought, gosh, okay, let's take this a stage further. So I kind of like started to come out of the comfort zone, and it triggered other connections within spirit. So I work in a number of different ways. But that one person saying that to me actually triggered off more exploration of the creative side. So I work on the vision side now. I work with anything. I work with whether it's acrylics or oils or gouache, or I use anything, because there are no limits. But when I'm doing the sittings and doing the spiritual readings, I only work with the oil paints and nothing else. So it's a case of being opening that mind and freedom. I get professional artists that come, and they are wonderful artists. They are amazing artists, but they are locked tight. They're afraid to smudge it. They're afraid to pull it out of shape. And so I try to teach freedom of expression, because that also goes back to our it can link to a lot of things to our past. We also have our natural character. But again, if you're willing to create change, so they want freedom in their work. And it's something that's, even to take a paintbrush, in the workshop, it's quite an interesting thing. I try to get people to get to dance with a paintbrush, to actually to do this action. People find it that you'll be amazed how difficult that is for a lot of people, just to allow freedom of expression with a brush in creating just movement, because they can't. So you have to teach them freedom, and that's that's where part of the art is a huge therapy. I mean, it can bring tears. It can bring. I mean, you know, I've painted. I'm going to say I can't say I've painted hundreds of tree paint, because I teach people to paint a tree, because a tree is something we all know. It's a good starting block, and so I paint loads of trees. But it's quite strange, because one day I went to paint a tree and I couldn't paint it. I thought, gosh, what is happening? And I can almost do it with my eyes shut. And this one day I can't do it. But it's learning. There are shifts within our own energy. There are things that happen with this growth. It's part of growth. We go through transitions. You know, life can still be blissful, but we'll go through certain transitions. But this element to be consistent in what we do, and carry that consistent vibration.
Hey, brother, when you're talking about that and trying to get them to break their spell, there's a guy here in Australia called Chris James. He comes to the UK. He's a music singer, teacher, and he actually, instead of doing the scales, he gets you to play with your voice and go to the extremities, you know, up and down the scale. And after about half an hour of just warm-ups, if you want to do the scales, you've actually shifted into probably another octave that you probably never had before.
Yeah.
You just really opened it up. And when I was getting that, but I was also getting, you know, pin the tail on the donkey and you're blindfolded. I had this vision there where you got a person there standing in the whiteboard, and you got all the pastels, whatever you got down the front there, and you blindfold them and put a set of headphones on my music, and then you just tell them, right, do whatever you can on this whiteboard, just to break that spell. And I suppose after you've taken it all off and have a look at it, and I think, oh my God, because quite often it's like clouds, isn't it? All of a sudden you see faces in clouds, isn't it? Or if you look towards bushes or something, you see faces come through the bush, or you see it in waves sometimes, or you might see it in the rock formations. I certainly see it in trees, But
it's a great point, Jeff. Absolutely, it's one way in which you can tap into the creative side, that freedom of expression, where you'll just take an element of color, and without thought or intention, you move it around on the canvas or board or whatever you work, and things will appear. And several occasions, all you got to do is just highlight it or just pick it out with a few little bits, and out it comes. It really. And so we paint even with painting, there is a consciousness and a subconsciousness to actually creating. And it's very apparent within a painting, this subconscious element that's trying to come through.
Hey, you're in Cornwall. It's got a real quite interesting history between the Crown and those who don't want to pay the taxes. It's quite an interesting energy there. And obviously, Gilbert and Sullivan wrote a little opera out there called Pirates of Penzance. So
yeah.
I mean, you got the tin miners, and they're busy burying away, and then you got the guys who are trying to hide their contraband, and then you've got this really interesting story of, is it called the pissy culture, where the elementals who dive in the water realm and they come back up, and every August when there's a harvest season, they like to go around to different farmers' cellars and start drinking their.
There are so many legends in that element too. Yeah, again, like Cornwall, Ireland, and Scotland, and it is this. There's an element of that magic there. That's there. Yeah, I mean, even with it is. There's a lot of whether it's to do with the ley lines in Cornwall, and King Arthur and everything else, but there's a lot of gatherings that come to Cornwall, and whether it's to do with just the nature of the energies and that take place here. There's a lot of druid meetings here and such like, and even with the mining. I mean, Cornwall is also with Wales and that, because they have the mines, but Cornwall it's mining history. They used to say that you couldn't put your hand down a hole without pulling out a Cornishman, and it's and so their knowledge of mining went all over the world, and they're known as Cousin Jacks, and so yeah. I mean, I learned this from my dad as well, because he was he was a stout Cornishman, and it's but yeah, absolutely. So their mining ability and their knowledge of mining went all around the world, into Australia and South Africa and lots of other places, and but yeah, there's lots.
You got St. Michael's Mount too, eh? I mean, you got those legends of St. Michael's Mount.
Got St. Michael's Mount at Penzance, and there's a lot of ancient stones and stone circles around. On a small scale. I mean, nothing large like Stonehenge or nothing, but there is, like I say, there's a lot of gatherings here, and also the paganism and the old laws and the nature spirits and stuff. There's a lot here. But again, even if you go to Wales, it's still very all the on the Celtic side, it seems to be very, very. I guess I could say it feels to be stronger when you go to like Cornwall and Wales and Scotland and Ireland. They all have, it's like, in Ireland you got the leprechauns, and in Cornwall we got the pixies. The pixies is linked to the fairy realm, and you have nice ones and not so nice ones. So yeah, there's a lot of and there's there's a lot of history. There's a lot of legend, and it goes back a long way. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you got St. George and the dragon, but then you've also got the Welsh who've got their national flag that's got a dragon on it. So,
yeah, the Welsh.
Your inspiration, delves into that realm, isn't it? I mean, this painting I've got in the back there, in the backdrop. I mean, it just pulls in. It reminds me of St. Nectan's Glen.
Yes. Yep.
And of course, in Glastonbury they have the Priestess big festival where they have the Green Man, and they put the green man out the front, and then all the ladies are all dressed in their goddess.
Absolutely.
Off they go. It's
Very
yeah.
Very strong on yes, Glastonbury and the goddess element there, and quite an interesting, I guess. Even when we look at the trees are also the elders as well. You get a really big oak tree that's hundreds of years old, but just looking out there, we got the old trees, and we got the elder of the whale and the elder of the elephant. There's a lot of elder energy there, if you like, in a way, but this knowledge that's being held together or carried on through and through and through, and not forgotten. And the interesting thing you mentioned as well, which I guess for myself, I see the masculine and the feminine. So when Jeff mentioned there about the goddess, which is the feminine energy, regardless of I'm male energy, but I've come to learn that I have got to work with the feminine as well. Because for me, and not everyone may get this, but I kind of see like the masculine side is the strength. But even if you're a female, we need strength in life. We need to be strong at times to overcome. So, for the female part, the person, she can pull on the masculine energy, and we're both made up of a part of that anyway. We could see it that the feminine is the soft and the masculine is the stronger part, the nurturing part again. But in some ways, it's kind of like, so the female can pull on the strength or the masculine side, and the male can pull on the elements of the feminine, the nurturing, caring element. I mean, it's quite interesting with men, because it's like, women, they're seekers of knowledge, they're seekers of information. And where men, men generally don't express very well. I'm not saying all men at all, but I know in my earlier days I didn't hardly express at all. It's kind of I was very inward, and if you ask a man what he'd done through the day, he'll probably sum it up in 6 words, and you ask a woman, it's 6,000 words. And I mean that in the most politeful way, because the women, they want information. That's what I say to the guy. Come on, what does so and so say? And what did he do? Or did men? We're kind of different in a way in our perspective. And so the women, they're hungry for knowledge and wisdom, and it comes with the feminine. They want to learn. They're fantastic healers. And they want the knowledge. They want all this information. They want more information. Where the men, we hop a lot from one thing to the other, and we don't express generally we don't use so many words. But I guess coming into this work, I also see the feminine energy is power. I see it as power. And this is how I've come to, where the masculine is the strength, but the feminine is power. Now, I already have the strength because I'm masculine, but I was lacking in power. And I thought, gosh, that is not, I wish I had power. I wish I had some power, but I've got the strength. And but the power, and the power to me is it's more than half the cake. For me, I saw it as a very valid part. So again, part of my learning curve was to evolve the feminine part of myself, which would help me to express. Because if I'm going to communicate with people, I need to learn to express, and I need to learn to feel more, because my feelings probably were restricted as within the masculine. So I kind of worked with the feminine, or become more aware of the feminine power, which helped me to express. It helped me to feel, because if I was going to give readings, I need to feel. And if my masculine energy is restricting me from feeling, and then I don't know how to put the words together. So I worked for a period of time with the feminine energy of empowerment, because that's how it was presented to me. So I've come to learn to, as Jeff probably knows, I've come to learn to express more. And the power is something that is really, it is power, to be in one's power, to be in, I could be strong, but I may not be in my power. It's an interesting aspect. So I could be really exceptionally strong, but your power is something else. so if you can balance the two, you're carrying a particular vibration, a particular energy. And I believe Bill had that. I do believe Bill had Bill had something about him. He had an energy that was wow. And Bill, I mean, I was kind of fit. I mean, I've been a builder for 35 years. And Bill took me to France to work, and we were renovating a center, a healing center over there. And I couldn't keep up with him. And I was thinking, how can I not keep up with him? He was a workaholic. He kept, but Bill is he worked with the energy vibration. And Bill had something that I would say is, we could use a different word. It's like a charisma. Bill had a charisma with him, and it's not to do with an exterior. It's to do with something but it's linked to finding the balance between the feminine and the masculine. So to be in one's power, it's an healthy thing to be aware of the feminine side as well. And it's linked to freedom of expression. It carries a lot of things to be able to express a feeling. And to put those feelings into words, and if you're dealing with people, it's a very valuable asset. I mean, part of dealing with people is you want them to come in and sit down and feel comfortable within that space, and you also need to promote the energies. You want to empower them in order to make the decisions, and through the reading, you want to confirm direction of something that might be thinking or is happening in and around them.
Hey, brother, let's wind it up. And I was going to say to you, we've played the 72 cards. Mind you, card 65, you've actually repeated there, haven't you? The calling, actually, you got shown as the wolf medicine. But that's a great, fantastic resume of 72 of your paintings that have been converted into the Oracle deck. And the other thing is that you do, because Bill actually, when he went back from Australia the first time, got you to do a painting for me, which is now in my hallway as you come up the main stairs, of a Tibetan dude. And then you do readings. So in this lockdown in the UK there, how do people who have been watching the show both in Australia, New Zealand and UK, I'm quite sure there's other people in other parts of the world, Canada, for example. How do they touch base with you in order to procure your services?
I guess the way Facebook is a very great platform. So I guess that seems to be a very popular thing for people to connect through. But obviously, other than that, would be through the website, which again is probably the secondary thing. So yeah, those are the two. Yeah, the patrickgamble.co.uk. Whether you went through the email or whether you went through the site, you can still email me through the site. So yeah, those are the best two options for that.
And so you carry on talking, and you can give us a heads up how you do it, and if there's a price involved here. Obviously,
well, it depends on a number of different things, because I guess in a way, some people go for a painting and a reading, and other people want just the reading. Some people occasionally just want a painting. It depends on their personal needs or what they want. Really, where it goes, and again, it's also done on the length of time that someone may want. Some people just want. Sometimes they just want an answer to a question, which is not always the easiest thing. It's not something I generally work in doing, because I like to work through. When someone comes for a sitting, I don't want to know anything, basically, because I believe that, I work with my cards, so my cards are a part of what I do, but I also want the deck to reveal. I want the deck to really answer questions before I know anything. And then I leave a little bit of time at the end if it's not been covered, which occasionally it might come up that it's. I mean, generally speaking, the cards cover the aspects. Sometimes people might want to know a little bit more or in depth more, which we leave a little bit more time at the end for that. And sometimes that doesn't come up in the reading. Sometimes it doesn't come up at all within the reading. And I see this basically as, at the moment, the alignment of energy is too far away. It's not within their grasp at this moment in order for the answer to come into the card reading. Because, you know, see, we're governed by so many things in life. Even if it's, you know, it's kind of, I say to people a little bit, to change someone's life, you've got to change 10 other people's lives. Because there is this web or this connection between people. So within my circle, a stranger could help me with not even knowing. It's a simple thing of actually picking up a phone and ringing someone, and who I get on the other side of that phone call, how that actually, someone can close the door without even knowing, and someone can open that door without even knowing. So even a stranger has power over my personal situation without even knowing it. So it's kind of like, in a way, I don't just have to work with the person, I have to take into account a number of elements that's going on around them in order to create change. But they are the essence of that. But if we can get an essence of the picture of what's going on, we can be restricted by so many things in life, and we have to work with those restrictions or work through them. And sometimes that can take a year to work through change in order for that door to actually be possible. But if we can give that insight or that understanding and give and also teach the elements of how that person, their actions, if you give a message across to someone, that's something that's just automatically going to happen. Because when they come for a reading, they're in some doubt of possibilities. Now, within a reading, if you just pass across that this is actually the case of this happening, some people will go away and stop doing what they're doing because of that one reading. And because they've stopped doing it or acting differently, they will either bring other challenges into place, which will have an influence on the impact further down the road. So we have to be aware of certain aspects within a reading. It's not just about one person when you give a reading, because every action creates a reaction.
Of course.
And that's the thing. Every action creates a reaction. So someone else's action will affect me in a greater or lesser degree. I mean, it could really knock my boat right over through their action, or the other way around.
So if someone wants a reading with you, you just do it Facebook Messenger, or you do it on Skype, or?
Yeah, there's a number of different ways. I mean, obviously, with the technology now growing as it is, there's messenger option, there's Zoom, there's many different ways now that we can incorporate that and bring that about.
All right, well, great. Thank you very much, Patrick, for sharing, so openly and so honestly, without any decoration or obfuscation. Journey you've had lots of listeners who know you are really interested in it, and thank you also for giving us insights into those pictures. And I'm so delighted to have heard about the keepers and the journey, and just the.
Oh, there is one question here that's quite interesting. I think I'll just throw it up.
Have the readings changed during the pandemic? I guess if I answer that question, and so I don't feel, for me, it's changed from my perspective. Obviously, circumstances has changed around me. I guess if I'm perfectly honest, because of the situation, everyone that was working a particular way all hit the internet. I mean, it's all gone. It's all gone internet. So I guess in some ways, because I moved into my home 10 years ago, and I never touched my home. I moved here 10 years ago, and I've not done. I'm a builder, and I've not done nothing to my home in 10 years. And I bought it as a project. I bought my home as a project, and I done nothing. I do loads and loads of miles away. I work away a lot, and I go abroad a lot with my work. And when I'm home, I'm trying to paint. So I've neglected my home. And I guess since the lockdown and everything, I did notice that there were so many readings online and everything. I guess in a way, personally for me, I thought, gosh, Patrick, I sat and looked at everyone where the internet becomes so busy, and I looked at my home and I thought, Patrick, I'm going to work on my home. I've still done the occasional reading, but generally speaking, I took to my home and I done a lot of things that I've needed to do. So that's where a lot of I took a little bit of a back seat, even though I'd done the occasional readings where people really wanted one. I done that, but I guess as things are settling now and coming, even though whatever that means, and there's relaxing of the lockdown in a number of stages, and there is this trickle now of moving forwards. And of course, with the duration of time, I'm fed up with working on my home now a little bit, and so it's bringing that element back into play where the readings can trickle back in. But for me, I still approach it from the same space, regardless of whatever. I still treat everything, whatever's happening out there, from where I am in my space. For me, approaching it, it's exactly the same approach. So I don't notice, it hasn't had an effect on the way I read, if that was the question, but obviously what is happening out there has an influence on the reading, if that makes sense.
Yeah. All right. Anything else? That's it. We're good.
Well, bless you. Thank you, Julia. Lovely meeting you. Thanks, Jeff. Nice to touch base again, mate.
We'll have you back again, brother. We might get William on and two artists.
No,
one
absolutely.
Pacific and one there in the what do you call it? The English Channel or the Atlantic Ocean? There.
The Channel, yes, Channel.
French.
Well, thank you. Thank you to all your listeners, and thank you for kind of making it somewhat easy for me. Thank you both.
Hey, bro. My mate here, Julia. She's an author. Yeah. And she got in touch with her heart center. Yeah. Got into her gut power, intuition, feelings, and all that stuff. And she's written a book.
Wow. So, very creative. Yeah.
Yes, it's coming out tomorrow. She's giving birth to it. And it's really quite interesting.
Oh, awakening.
The subject you've been talking about with the goddess. Yeah.
Wow. Even again, the little tingles. Yes.
Yeah.
It's such a absolutely. No, absolutely. It's empowering. Absolutely.
Well, we hope so. So 30 of us women all over the world from different areas and modalities have got together, and we spent the months during COVID using that to just write down what we hope can take all of us forward and what's worked for us, and hopefully will lead to higher vibrations, high frequencies, more energy, more unity, more love, and peace.
So Julia does Qigong. She teaches Qigong in the
park. Oh, yes.
And she does quantum healing, and she does family constellation healing, and she does hypnosis, particularly unlocking those blocks that people find. Am I doing the right thing here? Have I said everything in the right order?
I don't do family constellations, but I generally do help people with overcoming blocks.
Yeah, I get that, absolutely, because there are blocks. Yeah, there are blocks that happen, and they even speaking from my past experience, even with me, and blocks, something we don't always understand. Personally, for me, I didn't understand that I had a block, and I went to someone that helped me to clear it, and the only way from it myself, it was a crazy thing, but I felt like a bicycle with a kink in the wheel. I couldn't explain. The only thing I knew is that something wasn't right, but I couldn't explain what but something was out of balance with me, and I couldn't get it back. I didn't have that knowledge, or I actually ended up going for acupuncture, and I went for a number of treatments, and then one day he hit the block, and it must have lifted me a foot off the couch, that block. And he goes, "We found it. We have found the block." And I did, it's an interesting one, and it clears that energy flow. Yeah.
Yeah, release all that stuck energy.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. Julie, you better tell, mate. We got someone equally out there next Thursday night. Mary Rodwell.
Next Thursday night we have Mary Rodwell. She's actually a former nurse, and now she's called the Alien Lady because just over the years she has worked with people who have children who, are talking extraterrestrial languages or remembering galactic connections or seeing spirit or galactics, and she's really specialized on that. So she will be on the show next week, so we can talk about the other dimensions and realms outside of the Earth one. It'll be really interesting to join us.
Anybody got UFO experiences? Dial her up.
Amazing.
Patrick, to all our listeners, everybody who's watching, it's been fantastic. Patrick is just a walk from memory lane for me personally. It was just nice to sit back and just. You're not much of a talker or a storyteller, but I have to say, in these last 10 years, you've accomplished that new voice of yours to hold a conversation. It's been an awesome experience to sit back and just see how you've grown substantially, mate. So.
Well, thank you both.
Third photo in there that have to be in the middle there, so it's going to be your face. So there'll be another elder to go with the elephant and the whale there, brother.
Thank you, Dave. Well, bless you both. Big hugs to you all, and thank you both.
Thank you for spending the evening with us.
Thank you, Nave.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.